At least we all have real jobs, my cousin Derek announced, raising his beer bottle like he was making a toast. The entire backyard fell silent, 43 pairs of eyes turning to look at me standing alone by the dessert table. Some of us contribute to society instead of just drifting. I took a bite of my aunt's apple pie and said nothing, watching the agreement ripple through my family like a wave, nods, uncomfortable laughs, knowing glances that said poor Iris, still hasn't figured out her life. What none of them knew, what not a single person at the Millbrook family reunion understood, was that I owned 17 of the 23 commercial properties in downtown Millbrook. Including the buildings where 8 of them currently worked, and starting Monday morning everything was about to change. The reunion was held at my Uncle Paul's house, the biggest property in our small Pennsylvania town, with a sprawling backyard that backed up to the lake. I'd driven 3 hours from Philadelphia for this, knowing exactly what I was walking into. The same conversations I'd endured for 12 years, ever since I'd dropped out of nursing school at 22 and disappointed everyone. Derek's right, my Aunt Linda chimed in, her voice carrying that particular tone of concern that was really judgment wearing a mask. Iris, honey, you're 34 now. Don't you think it's time to settle down, get a stable job? Your mother worries so much. My mother, sitting in a lawn chair with her book club friends, nodded sadly. I just don't understand what she does all day. She says she works in property management, but that's just a fancy way of saying she collects rent for someone else's buildings. That's exactly what I do, I said quietly. See? Derek gestured at me with his bottle. No ambition. No drive. The rest of us went to college, got degrees, built careers. What do you have to show for the last 12 years? I could have told them. I could have explained that I'd taken my $40,000 inheritance from Grandpa Henry and turned it into a real estate portfolio worth $34 million. That I'd started by buying a dilapidated duplex in a neighborhood everyone said was worthless, renovated it myself, rented it out, and used the income to buy another property. Then another. Then another. I could have explained that property management meant managing my own portfolio, that I spent my days analyzing market trends, negotiating with contractors, reviewing lease agreements, and making strategic acquisitions. That I'd been buying up downtown Millbrook piece by piece for the last 8 years, quietly purchasing buildings through an LLC called Horizon Property Holdings so no one would connect them to me. But I'd learned something important over the years: people who've already decided you're a failure don't want evidence to the contrary. They want their narrative confirmed. Remember when she tried that painting thing, my cousin Jessica said, laughing. God, what was that, 5 years ago? She thought she was going to be an artist. That lasted 6 months, Derek added. The painting had been a cover story, something to explain why I was spending so much time in Millbrook when I supposedly lived in Philadelphia. I'd rented a small studio, bought some supplies, and let everyone think I was having another quarter-life crisis while I was actually meeting with contractors and reviewing property surveys. And before that, wasn't there something with photography? Aunt Linda asked. That was just an excuse to avoid getting a real job, my cousin Marcus said. He worked as a middle manager at Millbrook Manufacturing, a position he brought up in every conversation. The rest of us can't just float through life taking pictures and painting. We have responsibilities. Marcus rented his office space in a building I'd bought 3 years ago for $890,000. I'd raised his company's rent by 12% last year. He'd complained about it at Christmas dinner, talking about greedy landlords who didn't understand small-town economics. I worry about her future, my mother said to her friends, but loud enough for me to hear. No retirement savings, no health insurance, no stability. What's she going to do when she's 50? 60? I had $6.2 million in retirement accounts, comprehensive health insurance through my LLC, and a financial advisor who sent me quarterly reports showing my net worth increasing by an average of $2.3 million per year. Maybe she needs an intervention, Derek said, and I could tell by his face he thought he was being helpful. Seriously, we're family. We should help her get back on track. I could talk to my boss at the dealership, see if they need someone in the office. Derek sold cars at Millbrook Motors, which operated out of a building I'd purchased 18 months ago. The dealership's lease was up for renewal in 60 days. I'd been reviewing their financials. They were consistently late on rent and had violated several terms of their agreement. That's actually really nice of you, Derek, Jessica said. See, Iris? This is what family does. We look out for each other. Jessica ran a small boutique called Bloom in downtown Millbrook. She'd been there for 4 years, always posting on social media about supporting local businesses and the importance of community. Her lease was month to month, which I'd always found interesting. The previous owner had been too disorganized to require annual leases. I'd been planning to address that. I appreciate the concern, I said, setting down my plate. But I'm doing fine. That's what you always say, Uncle Paul cut in. He owned Paul's Hardware, a Millbrook institution that had been on Main Street for 30 years. But fine isn't good enough, Iris. You should be thriving. Building something. Contributing. Paul's Hardware occupied the ground floor of a 3-story building I.D. bought 5 years ago for $1.2 million. It was one of my first major acquisitions in Millbrook, a beautiful 1920s structure with original woodwork and tin ceilings. Paul paid $3,200 a month for 4,000 square feet of prime downtown retail space, which was approximately 40% below market rate. The previous owner had been his fishing buddy and had never raised the rent in 15 years. Your uncle built a business from nothing, Aunt Linda said. That's what real success looks like. Stability. Legacy. Something to pass down to your children. I didn't have children. I had 17 income-producing properties, 3 of which I'd recently subdivided and rezoned for mixed-use development. I had architects drawing up plans for a boutique hotel on Main Street and a letter of intent from a regional restaurant group interested in leasing the ground floor. The problem is entitlement, Marcus said, warming to his theme. Young people today think they're too good for honest work. They want to be influencers or artists or whatever, instead of putting in the time at a real job like the rest of us. Marcus was 36, 2 years older than me. He'd been at Millbrook Manufacturing for 8 years, working his way up from floor supervisor to operations manager. He made $68,000 a year and was very proud of it. I'd made $68,000 in rental income last month. From 3 buildings. It's not entitlement, my mother said, and for a moment I thought she might defend me. It's confusion. Iris has always been a little lost. Ever since she dropped out of nursing school, she's been trying to find herself. Some people just take longer to mature. I was drinking lemonade, but I wished it was something stronger. You know what you should do? Derek leaned forward, fully invested in fixing my life now. You should move back to Millbrook. Rent is cheap here, cost of living is low. You could get a job at the hospital as a receptionist or something, save some money, figure things out. It's not too late to start over. Derek's right, Jessica said. Philadelphia is expensive. You're probably barely scraping by there. Here, you could actually build a life. The irony was extraordinary. They wanted me to move back to Millbrook, to rent an apartment in a building I probably owned, to work a job that paid a fraction of what I made, all so I could figure things out. I'll think about it, I said. Don't just think about it, Uncle Paul said. Do it. We're offering you a lifeline here, Iris. Take it. The rest of the reunion proceeded like they always did. The cousins talked about their jobs, their kids, their mortgages. The aunts and uncles gave advice nobody asked for. Everyone carefully avoided mentioning money except to complain about bills, taxes, and the rising cost of everything. I left at 7, hugging my mother and accepting her worried look and her whispered, "Please, honey, just think about getting a real job." I drove back to Philadelphia thinking about Monday morning. I'd been planning this for 3 months, ever since I.D. acquired the final piece of the puzzle, the building that housed Millbrook's town offices. It had been a complicated purchase, involving negotiations with the county, historical preservation requirements, and complex financing. But I'd closed on it 6 weeks ago, and now I own not just commercial properties, but a piece of Millbrook's civic infrastructure. That purchase had triggered something in me. For 12 years, I'd been quietly building wealth while my family pitied me. I'd attended every reunion, every holiday dinner, every birthday party, and smiled through their concern and their judgment. I'd let them believe I was drifting, lost, unsuccessful. But I was tired of being the family disappointment. And more importantly, I was tired of subsidizing their success while they mocked mine. On Sunday night, I drafted an email to my property manager, Daniel. I'd hired him 2 years ago specifically to handle the Millbrook properties, to create a degree of separation between me and the daily operations. He knew I owned the buildings, of course, but my family didn't know he worked for me. The email was simple: implement the rent restructuring plan we discussed. All Millbrook properties, effective with upcoming lease renewals. Standard market rate analysis, no exceptions for existing tenants. Professional notices to be delivered Monday morning. I hit send at 11:47 p.m. Monday morning, I was in a meeting with a developer about a property in Fishtown when my phone started buzzing. Text after text after text. My mother, Iris, call me. Your uncle got some very upsetting news about his store. Derek, hey, did you hear? Something weird is happening with all the rental properties downtown. Jessica, call me ASAP. My landlord just tripled my rent. I'm freaking out. Marcus, some corporate asshole just bought up half of Millbrook and is gouging everyone. This is exactly what's wrong with America. I silenced my phone and finished my meeting. By noon, I had 43 missed calls and over 100 text messages. My family group chat, usually quiet except for birthday wishes and reunion planning, was exploding. Derek, my boss just called an emergency meeting. Uncle Paul, the same thing happened to me. 30 years in that building and now some faceless corporation wants to push me out. They want $8,000 a month. That's more than double. Uncle Paul, the same thing happened to me. 30 years in that building and now some faceless corporation wants to push me out. They want $8,000 a month. That's more than double. Jessica, I got a notice today. My rent is going from $1,800 to $5,200. In what world is that legal? Marcus, my company is talking about relocating. The new rent is impossible. This is going to destroy Millbrook. Aunt Linda, does anyone know who owns these buildings? Someone said it's a company called Horizon Property Holdings. Anyone heard of them? I waited until evening to respond to my mother's calls. Honey, where have you been? She answered immediately. It's been chaos here. The whole town is in an uproar. I've been working, I said. What's going on? She explained it all, the notices, the rent increases, the panic spreading through Millbrook's business community. It's some company from Philadelphia, she said. They bought up all these buildings and now they're trying to force everyone out. Your uncle is devastated. Jessica's talking about closing her store. This is going to destroy the town. That does sound difficult, I said carefully. Paul called the company trying to negotiate, but they wouldn't budge. They just said the rents are being adjusted to market rate, like that's supposed to justify destroying people's livelihoods. He's been there for 30 years. At below market rent, I said quietly. What? He's been paying $3,200 a month for 4,000 square feet of prime downtown retail space. That's 80 cents per square foot. Market rate for that location is $2.50 per square foot. He's been getting a massive discount for 30 years. There was a pause. How do you know that? I work in property management, Mom. I know what things cost. Well, regardless, it's cruel. These are families, not numbers on a spreadsheet. Whoever bought these buildings doesn't care about the community, about the people. They just see dollar signs. Maybe they see a town where businesses have been paying artificially low rents for decades while the buildings deteriorated, I said. Maybe they see property owners who let their friends skate by without raising rents to cover maintenance and taxes. Maybe they see unsustainable business models that only worked because someone else was subsidizing them. Iris, whose side are you on? I'm just saying there are two sides to every story. This isn't theoretical for us. Your uncle might lose his store. Your cousin might have to close her business. Derek's dealership is talking about layoffs. This matters. It does, I agreed. It matters a lot. Tuesday morning, Derek called me directly. Iris, I know we give you a hard time about your job and stuff, but you work in property management, right? In Philadelphia? Yes. Do you know anything about these corporate landlord companies? How they operate? My boss wants to try to fight this, but we don't even know where to start. What do you want to know? Everything. How can they just triple our rent? Is that legal? Can we negotiate? Can we sue? I pulled up Derek's lease on my laptop. Is your lease month to month or annual? Annual. It expires in, God, 60 days. Then yes, they can raise the rent. They have to provide notice, which they did. And they can set whatever rate they want. You can negotiate, but they're not obligated to accept. This is insane. We've been good tenants. We pay on time, we maintain the space. Doesn't that count for something? I looked at my records. Millbrook Motors had been late on rent 11 times in the last 18 months. They'd caused water damage that required $14,000 in repairs. They'd violated their lease by subletting part of the space without permission. Sometimes, I said carefully. But not always. Can you look into this company for us? Horizon Property Holdings? Maybe find out who owns it, what they're trying to do. You're good with this stuff, and your family. We could use the help. I'll see what I can find out. Wednesday, the Millbrook Herald ran a front-page story, Corporate Landlord Threatens Downtown. The article detailed the rent increases, interviewed affected business owners, and painted Horizon Property Holdings as a faceless entity destroying small-town America for profit. Uncle Paul was quoted extensively. These corporations don't care about community, about legacy, about the people who built this town. They see us as numbers on a spreadsheet. Well, we're not numbers. We're families. Thursday, my family organized a town hall meeting. Everyone affected by the rent increases came to voice their concerns, share their fears, and plan their response. My mother texted me, "Wish you were here to see this. The community is really coming together." I was in Philadelphia, reviewing the attendance list for the meeting. 47 people. 47 people who wanted to know who was behind Horizon Property Holdings. Friday afternoon, Daniel called me. "They want a meeting," he said. "A representative from the Tenants Coalition. They want to negotiate." "Who's representing them?" "Your uncle, Paul Hendricks." I smiled. "Set it up." Monday morning, 10 a.m., at the Millbrook office. Are you sure you want to do this? Very sure. Sunday night, my mother called. Your uncle is meeting with the property management company tomorrow, she said. He's going to try to work something out, explain how important these businesses are to Millbrook. I know you said you'd look into this company. Did you find anything? A little, I said. Anything helpful? Maybe. We'll see. Monday morning, I drove to Millbrook. I arrived at the property management office at 9:45 a.m. Daniel was already there, looking nervous. Are you absolutely sure about this? He asked. Completely. At 10 a.m. exactly, Uncle Paul walked in. He was carrying a folder of documents, wearing his best suit, and he looked exhausted. When he saw me sitting behind the desk in the conference room, he froze. Iris? What are you doing here? I work here, I said simply. I don't understand. You work in Philadelphia. You do property management for, he stopped. His face changed as the pieces started coming together. No. Horizon Property Holdings is my company, Uncle Paul. I own 17 properties in Millbrook, including the building that houses your store. He sat down heavily. This is a joke. It's not. You're the one raising everyone's rent? You're trying to push out the businesses? I'm adjusting rents to market rate. There's a difference. You're destroying the town. I'm running a business. The same way you run your business. It's not the same at all. Your family. How could you do this to us? I pulled out a folder of my own. Let's talk about your lease, Uncle Paul. You've been paying $3,200 a month for 15 years. Do you know what the property taxes on that building are? I don't. $4,800 a month. Before maintenance, insurance, repairs, or mortgage payments. Your rent doesn't even cover the taxes. The previous owner was losing money every month to keep you there. Do you know why I bought that building? To make a profit off my back? Because it was going to be foreclosed. The previous owner had stopped paying his mortgage. Another 3 months and the bank would have taken it. Then you would have been dealing with a bank-owned property or a foreclosure auction. Would that have been better? He was quiet. I've owned that building for 5 years, Uncle Paul. 5 years of paying the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance. 5 years of covering the shortfall between what you pay and what it costs to maintain the property. I've subsidized your business for 5 years, and you didn't even know it. If you were having trouble, you could have said something. Why would I? Every time I see you, you're telling me I need a real job, that I'm not contributing, that I'm drifting through life. Would you have listened if I'd told you I owned your building? He didn't answer. The new rent is $8,000 a month, I continued. That's still below market rate for that space, but it covers my costs. You can pay it, negotiate, or leave. Those are your options. I can't afford $8,000 a month. Then adjust your business model. Reduce inventory, increase prices, improve efficiency. That's what business owners do when costs rise. You're heartless. I'm realistic. Your business has been viable only because someone else was losing money to keep you afloat. That's not sustainable, Uncle Paul. It never was. He stood up. The family is going to hear about this. I'm sure they will. He walked out, leaving his folder of documents on the table. By Monday afternoon, everyone knew. The group chat exploded. Derek, Iris owns the buildings? Our Iris? Marcus, this is insane. She's been lying to us for years. Jessica, how does she even have money to buy buildings? This doesn't make sense. My mother called. She was crying. How could you? How could you lie to us like this? I didn't lie, Mom. You assumed I was unsuccessful, and I didn't correct you. You let us think you were struggling. You let us worry about you. You wanted to worry about me. It made you feel better, more successful. Every time you looked at my life and felt concerned, you felt better about your own choices. That's not true. Isn't it? How many times have you introduced me to people as your daughter who's still figuring things out? How many times has this family used me as the cautionary tale? At least we're not like Iris. She didn't answer. I built something, Mom. I took $40,000 and turned it into $34 million in assets. I created a business that provides housing and commercial space for hundreds of people. I employed contractors, supported the local economy, and yes, I made money doing it. That's not something to be ashamed of. But you hid it from us. Because you wouldn't have believed me. And if you had believed me, you would have resented me for it. I've seen how this family treats success. Remember when Marcus got promoted? Derek didn't talk to him for 6 months. When Jessica's boutique started doing well, Aunt Linda kept making comments about how some people just get lucky. Success makes you uncomfortable. So you thought the solution was to pretend to be a failure? I thought the solution was to build my life quietly and not seek validation from people who already decided who I was, and now? What happens now? Now everyone pays market rent, runs their businesses properly, and stops expecting special treatment. Including family. The following weeks were difficult. Half the family stopped speaking to me entirely. Derek called me a traitor. Marcus wrote a long email about family values and loyalty that missed the irony entirely. Jessica posted on social media about corporate greed ruining small towns, carefully not mentioning that the corporation was her cousin. But some businesses adapted. Uncle Paul raised his prices, streamlined his inventory, and paid the new rent. The dealership negotiated a slightly lower rate in exchange for a longer lease and better maintenance terms. Jessica expanded her online sales and made it work. 3 businesses couldn't adapt and closed. 2 new businesses moved in, paying market rates from the start. The buildings started generating positive cash flow for the first time in years. I could finally afford to make long overdue repairs, to upgrade systems, to improve the properties. 6 months later, my mother invited me to Sunday dinner. Just the 2 of us. I've been thinking, she said over pot roast. About what you said. About how we treated you. Okay. You were right. We did use you as the cautionary tale. It made us feel better about our ordinary lives to have someone to worry about, someone to fix. And when we found out you didn't need fixing, it was hard. I know. I'm proud of you. I should have said that first. I'm proud of what you built. But I'm also hurt that you didn't trust us enough to share it. It wasn't about trust, Mom. It was about protection. I was protecting my success from your judgment and protecting you from your assumptions. If I'd told you years ago that I was buying buildings, you would have worried I was making a mistake, getting in over my head, heading for disaster. This way, I could build something real before anyone had a chance to doubt it. We would have supported you. Would you? Honestly? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Maybe not at first. Maybe we would have tried to talk you out of it. Exactly. So what now? Can we go back to being a family? We never stopped being a family, Mom. We just have to figure out how to be one when I'm not the person you thought I was. It's been a year now since the reunion, since Monday morning when everything changed. I still own 17 properties in Millbrook. I've added 3 more. The town has stabilized, adapted, even grown. Property values are up, which means tax revenues are up, which means better schools and services. My family is speaking to me again, mostly. Uncle Paul and I have coffee once a month to discuss building maintenance and business strategy. Derek's dealership is actually more profitable now that they've tightened their operations. Jessica's boutique is thriving with her online expansion. At this year's reunion, nobody mentioned my career. Nobody offered me a lifeline or expressed concern about my future. They asked about the properties, about the market, about my plans for expansion. Derek raised his beer bottle, but this time it wasn't to make a point. To family, he said. Everyone drank to that. And I smiled, thinking about the woman I'd been a year ago, standing by the dessert table while they decided I was the failure, knowing what they didn't. Sometimes the most successful thing you can do is let people underestimate you while you quietly build an empire. Sometimes the best revenge is simply succeeding in silence until the silence itself becomes deafening. And sometimes, the person everyone thinks needs saving is actually the one keeping everyone else afloat. They just didn't know it yet. But they do now.